Hey guys, Cutterup Rob here. I'm going to do a video on putting a govern spring and a fuel pin and maybe some adjustments on a VE injection pump. There is a little bit of crossover for some Volkswagen stuff, but this one's going to be on a P pump, or sorry, this one's on a VE 12 valve pump. So off of an industrial engine, basically the same thing, virtually the same thing as far as when you're taking it apart. Anyway, there's a couple little differences, but let's tear it apart here. So I'm doing this video just to show you guys, so I'm actually not I'm gonna put it back together, but I'm not gonna put new seals and stuff in it. This is the seal kit for one of these pumps. You can buy them all over the place, but we carry them on the shelf most of the time because we do lots of this stuff. So there's I'm not going to open it, but there's the seals, all the seals for doing one of these pumps. Yeah. So anyways, that's the kit, and they're not horribly expensive. They're pretty cheap. So that's the seal kit. And usually on these, on the trucks, they will be standard screwdriver. This one actually was rebuilt, but it's got a Torx bit. And that, just one of those things. Sometimes they're pretty tight little buggers, and it not being attached to anything doesn't help me either. So let's get this off there. So inside here, there is your fuel pin. Oh, there's the fuel pin. So if you're changing the fuel pin, what you do is you just grab it in here, and then this is 10 mil. And one thing you do want to watch is there is a dot there. There's a dot right there. If you line that up, on your wherever you want the pin to ride. And I always put it, it's hard to see, this is an eccentric, but with an aftermarket pin, there's actually a cut out of it. But so if you're talking, there's a little tin cap right here, and they pry out of there relatively easy. Usually when the pump's rebuilt, they'll put a new one in. But so this is your pre-boost screw. So if you screw this down, what'll happen is you'll have more fuel before the boost comes on, because this is what this diaphragm does. So your intake air, boost air, goes into here, which shoves the pin down, which gives you more fuel. For the guys that don't know. So if you want more fuel out of the hole, you want to adjust this. Now, whoop. Throwing stuff around here. Now that being said, so this is the spring, the AFC spring, and then there's this washer which limits travel. Personally, I take these out, put them in the glove box, and then your star wheel, which is this wheel here. The farther down that is, the less spring tension there is. So basically this, if you wind this down, what it does is it adds fuel to the system faster with less boost. So lower the spring tension in this spring, and your fuel comes on faster. So, you know, like when you're adjusting these pumps, these are going to be the two major adjustments for tuning it. Now this one here is your power screw. So winding that in and out. Now you can wind that in and out. You can wind that like so that it runs away, and then you back it up a little bit. I personally don't usually run them there because they like to hang, the throttle will hang on you. But that's to each his own, you know, with one of these pumps. So what you need to do is there is 4 bolts. So there's one right here, if you guys can see that, right here, and then another one underneath here. So you have to take this linkage off. Another one right here, and then a 4th one back here. So this is injection or engine side. So this would be, you know, front of engine here, and then the pump comes in. So that's the reason that you have to take this off. So let's just pull that off. Show you guys here. And usually they're not super tight, but so something else you want to inspect too is to make sure this spring isn't worn real bad, because these like to wear out. And then, okay, I've had one of these apart lots of times, but so I kind of know where everything goes. But so if you set all this stuff out so that you know how it goes, you know, obviously it's going to be easier for you to put back together. Now, here is something that you do need to pay attention to. So right now with the pump the way it is, there is a line on top of here. There again, I'm gonna bring this up here. There's a line on top of the throttle shaft, and what you want to do, and then there's lines on the actual linkage. You can see them there in the video. And this is going to be lined up with something. Can be lined up with one of these lines. So for in this instance there again, this isn't going back together, but I'm pretty sure it's lined up with, looks like it's lined up with that one right there. But anyways, so what I do is, you can see somebody's marked this one before, it was probably when they rebuilt the pump. What I personally do is I take a file and I'll put a flat edge right here, right there, on top of the throttle blade. Get you guys in here a little bit closer if I can. That's maybe a little better. So you want to make sure that you mark where this came off. So usually you'll have the line there, and it'll line up with a line on this side, line on this side. So you want to make sure you mark that, because you want to put it back in the same spot when you go to put it back together. And then also, you can see here, this spring is linked onto the pump here. And you need to get that spring out of there so that you can pull this linkage off. But it's easy to pull back. You can just pull back around with a pair of needle nose pliers. So you pull that off. So there's that, right? Like I said, I set everything in a line, but there again, I've done it a bunch of times. So spacer, and this is just a spring, something for the spring to ride on. Spring, and the spring literally just sits in there. So, and then there's another spacer for the spring to sit on. I guess you could pile that stuff up if you wanted to. So now we're down to the point where you can see your bolts. And then you need metric Allen keys for doing this. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. You definitely need metric Allen keys for this, because these are metric. Now when this is in the truck, obviously some of these are going to be harder to get at. So usually what I do is I get a set of Allen keys that have the uni ball on the end of them, so you can stick them down in there like that. And then you can either use a socket and an extension as a breaker bar, because these aren't that tight, or you can use an adjustable wrench. But for my instance, nothing in my way, so I can just break them free. Actually, you can even see where this doesn't want to fit in there because of the throttle, wide open throttle stop won't let me fit it in there. So I will have to do the old like I said, a quarter-inch extension. Well, I guess it doesn't have to be quarter inches. Actually, does work pretty good for doing that. That works as well. Just depends on what you have for stuff, obviously. So this all loosened off here. I guess I could have showed you guys this. I actually did it last week or the week before, but I thought it'd be easier just to do it on the bench, because then it's a little bit more maneuverable for myself to get in there and show you guys stuff. And that's, you know, if you know what you're looking at in there when you have it apart, you know, you can stop the video and go in there if you need to. So one thing you do want to watch is that the spring is attached to this throttle shaft. So when you pull this apart, it's all pulled apart in there. You can see the spring right there. So that's the spring that you need to change. So what I do, because my fingers are fat, is I take a pair of needle nose pliers, pull the spring. Then you want to watch, because this piece falls out. And there's more than one piece to it. There's another little spring in there and a little washer. If that falls down in there, it's not a good time to get it out, trust me. So now you have it separated. And you can pull this out of there. There again, my fat fingers won't allow me to. And then there's the spring. So, and now to put it back together, well, actually, here's some of the govern stuff, you know, inside the injection pump. You know, I'll probably show a video of tearing one of these apart. I don't have a bench to re-bench it afterwards, but just so you guys can see what's inside. And then actually you can see in here, this is your throttle or your power screw, which butts up against here and shoves this ahead, is what it does. So, yeah. Basically, another thing I wanted to show too is inside here, and this is probably, ouch. This one's been changed, but you want to change these O-rings while you're in there, and that's in that kit, because if you don't, you can actually see where this one's been rebushinged. It'll leak on you, and that's lots of times where they leak from. So put the spring on here before you put the shaft back in. Spring in there, and then all you got to do is hook. You got to put this in there, and you want to hold that, because if it falls, there again, not a good deal. And it makes it easier. And I'm trying not to block where you guys can see too. But anyways, there we go, we get her in there. So we wind this out. You can get this to go in easier. You just want to count how many turns you take it out. And then there again, there is an O-ring on the back side of this too. So if you take that out, then this will drop right on there for you. And then you put your bolts back in. Put your bolts back in. And then you can just tighten your power screw back in again. That's how I do it. That's the easiest way for me to do it. And yeah, you just do the reassembly, and like I said, you just want to make sure when you put this back on, you want to make sure that you have that lined up the same way it was, because otherwise your idle will be all goofy. Which, you know, it's only just take it apart, put it back together again. But yeah, So anyways, that's the video on this one. And I think I'll probably show another video of this pump later on, tearing it apart so you guys can see inside, see what it looks like. And yeah, that'll be the video. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. Any comments, hit me up in the comment box. Thanks.